Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's daf is Beitzah. We begin 2 lines from the top of the Amud. Says the Gemara, Hu Gavra, there was this fellow who was on his deathbed. The Amar Lahu, he declared as follows: Havalei arba me'azuzi l'pleni. Please hand over 400 of my coins, 400 zuz, to such and such. V'linsiv barti, and have him marry my daughter. Amar Papa, arba me'a shekel. This fellow is eligible to receive that gift of 400 zuz, ubarti, regarding marriage of his daughter. That's up to him. I boy nasif, if he wishes to marry her, go ahead. I boy loy nasif, but otherwise he doesn't have to marry her. He can get the gift without marriage. It's not dependent upon the marriage. Tamad Amar Havule V'linsiv explains the Gemara, that's only because he started off by saying, give him that money, and then he followed with linsiv, let him marry my daughter, which indicates that one isn't conditioned upon the other. Avali Amar linsiv. But suppose he reversed. He started by saying, have him marry my daughter. V'havuli, then followed by saying, give him the money. Then he indicated that it is conditioned, one upon the other. I nasiv shakal. If this fellow indeed proceeds and marries his daughter, he's eligible for the 400 zuz. But otherwise, if he doesn't marry, he won't get the coins. So it depends what he started with. If he starts by saying, give him the money, and then he follows, marry my daughter, and one isn't really dependent on the other. But if he starts by saying, have him marry my daughter, and then he follows by saying, give him the money, he's indicated that money is to be given only upon marriage. Continues the Gemara. Yosef Mareimar, V'ka Amar Lahashmata, Mishmei Denafshei. This is referring back to the Gemara we learned yesterday at the end of the Amud. If a fellow says, I'm going to bring a korban toida, but I want to use that korban toida for my korban chagiga on Yom Tov as well. Or he says, I'm going to be a nazir, the korban of Nazirus, I'm going to use Maser Sheni money. This is a question that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish asks Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan responds, it doesn't work. He has to bring the korban toida, and he cannot use it for the korban chagiga on Yom Tov, because you can't use something which is already kaddish to be yatzir chiv. Kol davar shebachayva einay ba'elam and achulin. Likewise, when it comes to nazir, you can't decide to use maser sheni money to fulfill your nazir obligations. It's a chiv, which can only be funded with private funds. So Yosef Marema was sitting in the Beis Medrash, and he said over that halacha, Mishmei Denafshei, in his own name, meaning he didn't attribute it to Rabbi Yechanan, Rish Lakish. It was just an anonymous halacha. Amalei Ravina Lamar Meimar. So Ravina responded to him, Atun, you hachi masnisula. You presented without a name, without connecting it to Rabbi Yechanan, Rish Lakish. Anan, but by us, Kedeboy Minei Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yechanan masninila. According to our version, it was actually a dialogue. Rish Lakish asks Rabbi Yechanan, what is the halacha in those two cases? And Rabbi Yechanan responds by saying, the toida cannot be applied to korban chagiga, nor can the mo'is ma'aser sheni be applied for the korbanos nazir. So the same halacha, just a question of who said it. Continues the Gemara. We go back to the Mishnah, where we learned that according to Beis Shammai, you don't do smicha on the korban that you bring on Yom Tov. You bring your own private shalmi chagiga, it's without smicha. You don't lean on it, which is something that you usually do when you bring a korban. You lean on it, you say a vidoy, you sort of make it personal, your personal representation to Hashem. You don't do that on Yom Tov according to Beis Shammai. It was according to Beis Hillel. You bring the korban shlamim with smicha as well. Now, what's the background for this machlekes? Tani Tana Kamed Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abba. There was an Amoyer, a Chacham, who presented the following Beitzah to Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abba. The Beitzah starts like this. There's a pasuk, Vayakri v'sa'oila v'yaseo kamishpat. We're speaking in Parsha Shmini during the Miluim. Aaron HaKohen brought the korban oila, and he processed it kamishpat, the way it's meant to be done. It's an extra word. Yaseo kamishpat. It's alluding to something else. He followed a precedent. He did this according to something else. K'mishpat oilas nedava. He processed this oila, which was an oilas choiva, was an obligatory carbon, with the same guidelines, the same process as an oilas nedava. Now, if you go back to the beginning of Parshas Vayikra, we find that Torah refers to oilas nedava and shlamim of nedava, meaning a carbon which he brings voluntarily, an oila or a shlamim. And in both cases, the psukim tell you have to do smicha. That's a given. So when it's a nedava, you do smicha. What about an oilas choiva, a choiva, something you have to bring? The smicha apply there as well. It says the Beitzah, yes. The fact that the pasuk says that he brought the oila and he followed kemishpat. He applied the same procedure as stated elsewhere. What does that teach you? Limeid al oilas choiva shetuuna smicha. That when it came to the oilas choiva, he followed the same procedure as the oilas nedava. And as we find by oilas nedava that there was smicha, what the pasuk means is that he applied smicha to oilas choiva as well. And it's only because of this pasuk that we know this halacha. Which halacha? That smicha is applicable to an oilas choiva, just as an oilas nedava. Amalei. So Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abba responded to this chacham who presented this Beitzah, that we learn the halacha of smicha by oilas choiva, because the pasuk says vayakir es oila vayaseo kamishpat, which indicates in the same way as the oilas nedava with smicha. Amalei de amalach mani. You know who's presenting this version? You know whose drasha this would be? Beis Shammai. This is Beis Shammai. Look, Beis Shammai hold that when one brings Shalmi Chagiga, that's Shalmi Choiva, it's an obligatory carbon, you have to bring it. There's no smicha, right? That's what they say in the Mishnah. You bring the Shlamim on Yom Tov without smicha. What happened to the smicha? Because we only find smicha by Shalmi Nedava, by voluntary Shlamim, in the beginning of Parshas Vayikra. We don't find it applied to a shlamim of choiva. And therefore, according to them, there is no smicha by the Shalmi Chagiga Yom Tov. And therefore, according to them, the only way to know smicha by a oilas choiva, we can't learn it from oilas nedava. You can't compare the two things. Perhaps nedava is more personal and that needs smicha. A choiva carbon, how does smicha get involved there? So that's what we need a pasuk. Vayakir es oila vayaseo kamishpat. That when it comes to oila, we do compare choiva to nedava, only because of that pasuk. Otherwise, you would not figure that out on your own. And therefore, when it comes to shlamim, we don't have a pasuk. There is no smicha by a shalmei choiva. So this Beitzah that you quoted must be Beis Shammai shit. The Beis Hillel, because according to Beis Hillel, you don't need a pasuk. That smicha applies to oilas choiva. Just learn it out from oilas nedava, just as they learn shalmei choiva from Shalmi Nedava. You see in the Mishnah that they apply smicha to a Shalmi Choiva. How do they know it? There's no pasuk. Must be that they're deriving from Shalmi Nedava. Likewise by Oila. You can just derive Oilas Choiva from Oilas Nedava without a pasuk of Kamishpat. The Beis Hillel. Given the Gamri Shalmi Choiva and Shalmi Nedava, once we see that they extended the smicha found by Shalmi Nedava over to Shalmi Choiva, Oilas Choiva namiloi de Beikra. The same would apply to Oila. You don't need a pasuk that smicha applies to Oilas Choiva. You don't need the pasuk of Vayaseh Kamishpat. The Gamri by Oilas Nedava. You can simply learn it from Oilas Nedava. Pasuk in the beginning, Parshas Vayikra speaks about the Oilas Choiva Nedava and Shlamim of Nedava, who both need smicha. Let's just apply that to Choiva as well. Says the Gemara, how do you know that's correct? Perhaps even according to Beis Hillel, we need this pasuk, and this Beitzah is following Beis Hillel as well. Why? Umimai de Beis Hillel Shalmi Choiva Mishalmi Nedava Gamri. How would you know? That the reason why Beis Hillel apply smicha to Shalmi Choiva, to Shalmi Chagiga on Yom Tov in our Mishnah is simply because they learn it from a shlamim of Nedava. So on their own, they make that binyan av, that connection, related to things. And therefore, when it comes to an oila, they would do the same. They would compare choiva to nedava, just as smicha applies to Nadav, applies to Chayva. You don't need that pasuk, right? That's your assertion. How do you know that's correct? Dilma ma'ilas Chayva gamri. Perhaps the reason why Beis Hillel applies smicha to a shlomim of Chayva, not because they learn from Nadav. You can't compare. Perhaps the two things are unrelated. Nadav and Chayva don't connect. That's more personal. That's not. The reason why they apply smicha to it, the shlomim of Chayva, is because they learned from Oila of Chayva. And Oilas Chayva gufa ba'yikra. And exactly for this reason, because we find the pasuk v'yaseh kamishpat. Then Oilas Chayva needs smicha, and now they have a source. That smicha applies to Chayva. And they extend that to the shlomim of Chayva as well. So perhaps this Beitzah, which needed a pasuk to apply smicha to an Oilas Chayva, is following Beis Hillel as well. So the starting point is, we have a pasuk by Nedava. That smicha applies to Oilas Nedava, beginning of Vayikra. We have the next pasuk in Parashat Shmini, Vayakar V'Sa'oila, which is Oilas Chayva, Vayaseh Kamishpat. He followed in line with Oilas Nedava, which means we apply smicha to Oilas Chayva as well. And we take that over to Shlomim of Chayva, since we find a precedent that Oilas Chayva needs smicha, Shlomim of Chayva as well. And this Beitzah is perfectly Beis Hillel. Says, well, that can't be. Why? Let's backtrack. You're telling me that they learned smicha by Shalmi Chayva from Oilas Chayva because of that pasuk. Why not from Shalmi Nedava directly? Why can't they say, just as smicha applies to a Shlomim of Nedava, as we find in Parashat Vayikra, it's meant to apply to a Shlomim of Chayva as well? What's wrong with a direct limud? Why can't they learn the Chayva of Shlomim from Nedava of Shlomim? Shekei Mitzuyin, because there is room to differentiate between a Nedava and a Chayva. Nedava is something common, more common than Shlomim of Chayva. And therefore perhaps it has that Chumrah, has that added element of Smicha. So you can't learn Nedava from Chayva. Really? If that's the case, if you're looking to differentiate, then how could you suggest that they're going to learn smicha by shlomim of chayva from oil of chayva? Right, that was your suggestion. Perhaps this Beitzah follows Beis Hillel. We need a pasuk for smicha by oilas chayva. They take that over to shlomim of chayva. Well, one second. There's the same reason why they can't learn shlomim of chayva from shlomim of nedava directly. What's wrong with that? Because there's room to differentiate. This is more common than the other one. Likewise, they can't learn from oilas chayva because there's room to differentiate there as well. Oilas chayva namele gamri shekain kolol. An oil is completely brought on the mizbech, totally burnt, nothing for a balim, nothing for the kain. It stands higher, it ranks higher. Perhaps that's why it has the chumrah of smicha. You can't extend the din smicha over to a shlomim of chayva. Two different karbanis, two different levels. So, apparently this Beitzah, vayaseh kamishpat, that there is a smicha ba'ilas chayva, can't be Beis Hillel. Because according to Beis Hillel, if they can't learn directly from the dava to chayva for whatever reason, then they can't learn from oilas chayva to shlomim chayva. There's also a difference. It says, well, no, asim and benaya. Perhaps you can join together both sources, and that will provide a joint source for what we're looking for. Meaning, like this. Rashi explains like this. Perhaps this Beitzah is Beis Hillel. And it works like this. In the beginning of Vayikra we have smicha mentioned with nedavos, nedarim and nedavos. Whether it's a oila, whether it's a shlomim. And what about chayva? Oilas chayva. Shlomim of chayva. So the truth is we can't really learn directly from nedava. Nedava is mitzuyin, it's more common, more frequent carbon. It's a different parasha. Rather, we have to do it in stages, staggered. First, we have a pasuk vayakar v'sa'oila, esel kamishpat, which tells you that an oilas chayva gets a smicha. So the only piece of the puzzle that's still missing is shlomim of chayva. Problem is, you can't learn that from either source. You can't go straight to Shlamim of Nadava. Mitzuyin, it's something more common than Shlamim of Chayva. Same token, you can't learn it directly from Oilas Chayva, which is Kol. It's completely on the Mizbech, as opposed to Shlamim, where parts of it go to the Baal and the Kohen. So direct leeward from one or the other is not an option. Rather, you join together both sources, now that you know for a fact. The Shlamim of Nadava needs Smicha. It's a pasuk. Oilas Chayva needs Smicha. Vayasel Kamishpat. Another pasuk. So you join them together, and this combined source will allow you to apply Smicha to Shlamim of Chayva. What are you going to say? You can't learn from Shlamim of Nadava. It's Matzui. It's more common than a Chayva. Well, then go over to Oilas Chayva. That needs Smicha. We have a pasuk. That's not Matzui. Well, Oilas Chayva, Kalil, is completely burnt. Well, let's go back to the other source. Shlamim of Nadava, it's not Kalil. It's partially consumed by the Balaam and the Kohen. So we go back and forth and back and forth. Basically, we find a common denominator found in both sources. In both, in Shlamim of Nadava and Oilas Chayva, what do they have in common? Rashi says they both have Nesachim, and they both have Smicha. It's the only thing we find in common. And therefore we extend that over to Shlamim of Chayva as well. Since it has Nesachim, let it have Smicha as well. So bottom line is, this Beitzah can be perfectly aligned with Beis Hillel as well. Beis Hillel need that pasuk of Vayakar v'Sa'oila v'Yaseh Kamishpat to indicate that Oilas Chayva gets Smicha. And that, in combination with the Shlamim of Nadava, will provide a source for the Shalmi Chayva, which will have Smicha. And apparently Beis Shammai disagree. They hold for some reason you cannot extend Smicha over to Shalmi Chayva, as we find in the Mishnah. Continues the Gemara. Really? V'savri Beis Shammai Shalmi Chayva lebo Smicha? Do you mean to say that according to Beis Shammai, there's no Smicha by a Shlamim of Chayva? So that's the point of Machlekes. Beis Shammai hold, don't do Smicha on Yantav because there is no Smicha on Shlamim of Chayva and Shlamim Chagiga. Beis Hillel say, you do Smicha because there is Smicha on Shlamim of Chagiga, on Shlamim of Chayva. That's the point of Machlekes. So sort of a general Machlekes. Not really a Yantav Machlekes. It's a general Shaila. Is there Smicha on a Shlamim of Chayva? Is that so? Listen to this Bryce. I'm Rabbi Yehuda. There's no discussion. There's no machlokes. You need smicha on Shlamim of Chayva. That wasn't the machlokes. What then was the machlokes? I'll take it with smicha shchita. The question is, how close to the shchita does a smicha have to take place? Or could it be done yesterday? You don't have to do it in close proximity to shchita. The point of the smicha is to make the carbon personal. So that it represents you on the Mizbeach. You could do that yesterday. It's not part of the actual hakrava. According to Beis Hillel, has to be within close proximity to the shchita. Rashi says, they learn from the pasuk, it says, v'samach and the mishachat, has to be in one go, one process, one experience. And therefore, come Yom Tov, Beis Shammai say, what right do you have to lean on the animal on Yom Tov? That's a malacha, that's shvus. Do it yesterday. There's no need to do it today. I understand you have to do smich on the shlamim of chayv. I understand, I agree, but do it yesterday. Beis Hillel say, no. Not only do you have to do it, you have to do it now. Take it with smicha shchita. The shchita has to be one continuous process with the smicha. And therefore, do it on Yom Tov. So we have a Beitzah that all agree that Shalmi Nuchayva needs smicha. The question is, how close to the act? Hu Damakei Tana? The previous Gemara followed a different Tana. So according to the addition of that Tana, the Machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel revolved around whether or not you need smicha at all by Shalmi Chayva. The Sanya. Rabbi Yehuda Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, I'll take of the smicha shchita shetzarich. Beis Shammai Beis Hillel both agree that when you do smicha, it has to be close proximity to the shchita. What then was the shaila? Ala smicha atzma, more general discussion. Does smicha apply to a shlamim of chayva? According to them, you don't need smicha on this type of carbon. It fits very well. You see, if it's a shalmi chayva, it's not so personal. So perhaps that's why you don't need the smicha. Fits well with what they said earlier, that, going to one sheet at least, that the smicha doesn't have to be takef to the shechita. The point of smicha is to make it personal, to connect the owner with his carbon. It's not part of the hakrava process. So anyways, that's Beishamai Shita. You don't have to have smicha on a Shalmei Chayva. Going to Beisil you do need. So basically we have two versions of the machlekes. Again, going back to the Mishnah, Beishamai say, you're allowed to bring Shalmei Chagiga on Yom Tov, because it provides, it supplies the owner as well with food. It's Eichel Nefesh. It's a shlamim, partially goes to the owner. But no smicha. Beisil say, you bring the shlamim with smicha. Two versions of machlekes. According to version 1, it's a fundamental shaila. Does smicha apply to this type of carbon? According to version 2, of course it does. The question is, do you have to do it on Yom Tov? According to Beis Hillel, you could do it yesterday. According to Beis Shammai, do it yesterday. According to Beis Hillel, you have to do it today. So that's one machlekes regarding smicha on Yom Tov. The Mishnah mentioned another machlekes as well. Can one bring an oilas re'iyah on Yom Tov? According to Beis Shammai, no, because you have no personal benefit from it. It's an oil on the mizbeach. It's not oichel nefesh. According to Beis Hillel, you may bring even oilas re'iyah on Yom Tov. It's a Yom Tov related carbon. You can bring it on Yom Tov. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a brayz, Mas b'Hillel HaZaken. It was an incident involving Hillel HaZaken himself. Shehevi oilos l'azora. He was bringing his oil to the azora. Lismach alev b'Yom Tov. It was Yom Tov. He brought it to the azora to do smicha, to bring it as a carbon. Chibru all of Talmidei Shammai HaZaken. So the Talmidim of Shammai HaZaken began congregating around him and started taunting him. They tell him, look, what's the point of what's going on with this animal? Where are you bringing it? So he wanted to avoid confrontation. He says, look, it's in a keva. I brought it as a shlamim. I'm bringing it to be makriv as a shlamim. You agree you can bring a shlamim on Yom Tov. Rashi on the bottom line says, due to Hillel's extreme humility, he avoided the truth in order to avoid confrontation. So this is a shlamim, it's not an oil, leave me alone. So he wiggled the tail at them, and they left him alone. What happened that day? The opinion, the position of Beis Shammai prevailed over Beis Hillel, because it appeared like Hillel acquiesced to Beis Shammai's opinion, and as a result, Beis Shammai's shita became established. And they wanted to establish the halacha like Beis Shammai's shita, that you can't bring an oilas re'iyah on Yom Tov. However, there was a certain elder there, Mitamidei Shammai HaZaken, was actually a Talmud of Shammai. Ubava ben Buta Shmoy, that was his name. Shoyadea, Shalach Beis Hillel, he knew full and well that the halacha should follow Beis Hillel. That's the more probable shita. He didn't want them to establish the halacha like Beis Shammai. V'shalach ve'hevi, so he made a demonstration. He went and he got all the animals he can get a hold of. Shalach ve'hevi, kol tzayin kedesh b'Yerushalayim, all the high quality sheep, animals of Yerushalayim. Ve'midam b'Hazor, he brought them to the Hazor and declared, Ve'omar, kol mi sharoitza lismach yav b'yismach. Whoever wants to be saimech and bring this carbon, Oyla, go ahead, be my guest. As a result of that, Govra Yodnish Beis Hillel, as a result of this demonstration, Beis Hillel Shita became pronounced and established, V'kavu halacha k'moisan, and halacha followed Beis Hillel, V'lo yehoya sham adam, she'irer b'davar klum, and no longer was anybody there who challenged and questioned the halacha. Shuv Masa, there was another story, but Talmud Echad, B'Talmidei Beis Hillel, a Talmud from the yeshiva of Beis Hillel, Shehevi Elos Lazora, who came along with his oila to the Azora Lismei Chalel, to bring it to be Saimech, to bring it as a karm. Motzei Talmud Echad B'Talmidei Beis Shammai. So he met up with none other than a Talmud of Beis Shammai, Amar Loi, who challenges him and he says, Mazi Smicha, what's the deal with the Smicha? What's going on here? So he was taunting him. Amar Loi, so the Talmud of Beis Hillel responded in kind, Mazu Shtika, what are you saying? You should be silent. So 3 words for 3 words. Mazu Smicha elicited a response of Mazu Shtika. Shaska ben Azifa, he silenced him with this rebuke, Valachlai, and he left him alone. Amar Abaye, we learn an important lesson. Don't overdo it when you respond to somebody taunting you. Perhaps you have to respond, but keep it in check. Hilkach haitzub rabbanon. Therefore, a young Talmud Chacham da'amar lechavri milsa, who was taunted by somebody, leila hadale milsa. When he responds to him, make sure not to overdo it. Leila hadale milsa tzfei mimai da'amar lechavri. He shouldn't respond in a more elaborate fashion than the way he was challenged. Keep it civil. Look, he was taunted with 3 words, mazu smicha, and he responded in a measured way. That's it. He didn't overdo it. Continues the Gemara. Let's focus on this shaila. Whether you can bring an oilas re'iyah on Yom Tov. So on Amar Aleph we discussed the smicha question, a smicha of a shlal mechayva, shal mechagiga. Now we're going to discuss whether or not you can bring a oilas re'iyah at all. According to Beis Shammai, you can't bring it on Yom Tov. According to Beis Hillel, you can. Tanya, Amalem, Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai. The Beitzah will present the debate that ensued between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel turns to Beis Shammai. Look, Avakavachem. If on Shabbos, where it's asa to do any malacha for the sake of a layman, for your own personal hana, you can't do malacha, you can't do shchita on Shabbos. Still, mutar l'gavaya, you're allowed to bring many karbanos, tamid and musafin, for the sake of Hashem. Certainly on Yom Tov, makom shehu mutar lahedit, where it's mutar to engage in malacha for personal use. Vayich nefesh, ein adin shemutar l'gavaya, certainly you could do malacha for the sake of Hashem to bring a carbon. So why can't you bring the oilas re'iyah on Yom Tov? True, you don't have personal gain, a personal benefit, but it's l'gavaya, it should be mutar. Beis Shammai responds, I'll disprove your position. Bring a raya from Neder and Nadava, a carbon which you bring voluntarily. Shemuta lehedid, vas l'gavaya. So it's on Yom Tov. You're allowed to do malachos for your own personal eichel nefesh, right? Muta lehedid. Vas l'gavaya, you can't bring this Neder and Nadava, even though it's a carbon l'Hashem. So working with the assumption that although Beis Hillel allow you to bring Sham Chagiga, Eilas Re'iyah on Yom Tov, that's because it's Yom Tov related, associated with the day. But a Neder and a Dava, which you could have brought last week, there's no heta to bring it on Yom Tov. And Beis Shammai using that as a refutation to Beis Hillel's position. I'll bring you a raya. The 2 things aren't really related. You have a Yom Tov, where you can do for your own personal use, but you can't do it for Hashem. You can't bring a Neder and a Dava. Likewise, when it comes to Eilas Re'iyah, who says you can bring it today? Just because you can cook for yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you can bring a carbon from which you have no personal gain. Beis Hillel responds, how do you compare Mal and Nadarim and Nadavos? I understand why a neder can't be brought on Yom Tov. It has no set time. Bring it yesterday, bring it tomorrow. It's not associated with Yom Tov. As opposed to Eilas Re'iyah, shekavol azman. It's directly linked to Yom Tov. It identifies with Yom Tov. Therefore, you can bring it today. Amar Lam Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai responds, well, avzu ein kavol hazman. An Eilas Re'iyah doesn't have to be brought today. You can bring it Chayla Mayid, this nan, Mishalei Chag, B'yam Tavishin Shachag. If you didn't bring your karbanos on the first day, Chagig v'hoylach kol regal kulay, B'yam Tav Achron Shachag. You can bring it all throughout Yom Tov, even the last day, Shmini Atzeres, is also a Zman Tashlumin. So what right do you have to bring the Eilas Re'iyah on Yom Tov itself? Bring it tomorrow, Chayla Mayid. Amar Lam Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel responds, Afzu kavol azman. You have a point, but at the end of the day, Eilas Re'iyah really has a zman. This nan. Ava haregel v'lechag. If Yom Tov passes you by and you haven't brought your karbanos, you're no longer responsible, meaning time's up. You lost your opportunity. And therefore, as Rashi explains, since ultimately there is a zman, although it's not a 1 day zman, it's a 7-8 day zman, but if you missed that, you missed it. So there's a chashash that you might just linger and delay and miss the opportunity altogether. Therefore, it's important that you bring it today. It's called tzarech Yom Tov. So it's different than neder and a dava, where there is no time frame. Therefore, that shouldn't be brought in Yom Tov. Amrlan Beis Shammai responds to that. V'alekvar nema lochem. Pasuk says, what type of ichal nefesh can you do? Ach asher yo'asa lochem. Only something which is for your personal benefit. Lochem v'lo l'gavoy, as opposed to a carbon which is for Hashem. You can't bring an oila Hashem on Yom Tov. Amrlan Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel responds, v'alekvar nema l'Hashem. Pasuk says, "V'chagoysim oisei chag l'Hashem," which indicates that all the karbonos he meant to bring on Yom Tov, even if it's l'Hashem, called l'Hashem, anything for Hashem can be brought on Yom Tov, as long as it's something which identifies with Yom Tov. It's an oilis re'iyah, sham chagig. Im keimat hamalim lachem. If that's the case, then why does the pasuk say only a nefesh which is intended for your personal benefit can be done? Well, lachem v'lo l'kusim. Can't cook for a guy. Lochem v'lo l'klav. Lochem tells you only for your personal benefit, as opposed to preparing for the animals. And as Tosfos points out, lochem will also be mamayit nedar and nedavis, but not an oilas riyah, which is a Yom Tov related carbon. And therefore, according to Beis Hillel, you can bring it on Yom Tov. Continues the Gemara. Abba Shaul omer b'lashon acheres. Abba Shaul had a different version of this debate. Similar discussion, but the results will differ slightly from the previous version. According to the version that we had until now, it seems that all agree Nedarim and Davos can be brought on Yom Tov. Whereas according to the next version, according to Beis Hillel, you can bring a shlam of Nedava on Yom Tov as well. Abba Shaul omer b'lashon acheres. According to his version, the debate went as follows. Beis Hillel opened up by saying, look, you can bring karbanos on Yom Tov. Uma b'makom shekiros chastuma. Since we find that on Shabbos, although your kira, your stove, is closed up, it's not active. Kiras rabcha psucha, Hashem's stove, so to speak, his mizbeach, is fully active. You bring karbanos on Shabbos, t'midin u'masafin. So although you're inactive, Hashem's mizbeach is active. Certainly on Yom Tov, well, your oven, your stove is fully operational. You're doing malachis, v'aychal nefesh. Of course, ein adin shekiras rabcha psucha. It certainly makes sense that Hashem's oven, Hashem's stove, Hashem's mizbeach should be fully operational, which means you can bring karbanos for Hashem, oilas re'iyah, etc. You know, it makes much sense, even without the kal v'chomer. Doesn't make sense that your table is filled. You're cooking, you're baking, you're shechting, and Hashem's, your master's table is empty. The mizbeach is idle. If you're worried about yourself, you can do malachas for yourself, certainly for Hashem. And therefore, you can bring karbanos even on Yom Tov. Now, is there any difference between the first version of the debate and Abba Shaul's version? One slight difference. Mar Savar Nadarim and Davar craving be Yom Tov. According to Abba Shaul's version, even a Neder and a Davar can be brought on Yom Tov. He doesn't differentiate. For instance, according to Beis Hillel, you can bring a shlam of Nadav on Yom Tov as well. Umar Savar, whereas according to the first version, ain't craving be Yom Tov. It's pretty clear that you can't bring a Neder and a Davar on Yom Tov. In fact, Beis Shammai used that as an argument against Beis Hillel. You agreed to me, you can't bring a Neder and a Davar on Yom Tov, so what's the difference? And they responded back and forth until they concluded. So that's the difference. According to the first version of the Machlekes, all agreed that a Neder and a Davar have no place on Yom Tov. According to the second version, you can bring them on Yom Tov as well. Okay, so in conclusion, we have like this. Machlekes regarding Oila Asriya, Beis Shammai say you can't bring it on Yom Tov. According to Beis Hillel, you can. Regarding Nedarim and Nedavos, for instance, a shlam or Nedava. So according to the first version of the debate, you can't bring it on Yom Tov. And the Gemara soon will tell us it's actually Minat Torah. Whereas according to the second version, Abba Shaul, there's no difference between Neder and Nedava, Chayva. You can bring it on Yom Tov as well, according to Shitas Beis Hillel. Continues the Gemara. Omar Rav Huna, L'divra Eimer, Nedarim and Nedavos ain't craving be Yom Tov. According to the Shita, you can't bring and neder or nadav on Yom Tov. So, for instance, according to Beis Hillel, you can't bring the shalmei nadav on Yom Tov. There are two ways to learn: is it min Torah or is it midrabanan? Says Rav Huna, it's min Torah. Lo tema midaraisa mechsa chazor. Don't think for a second that min Torah you can bring it. Min Torah it is suitable to be brought on Yom Tov. V'Rabbanan the gazriu. The reason why you can't is because Rabbanan decreed, don't do it. Gzeira shema yishe. We're concerned that he might linger, he might delay the bringing of this neder until Yom Tov, and then something might come up, in which case he might not bring it all together. So perhaps that would be the reason why they tell us, don't bring it on Yom Tov. You can't bring it on Yom Tov. We don't want you to wait until Yom Tov. You're committed, bring it then. So perhaps that will be the concern. No, says Rav Huna, that's not the case. Rather, in a Torah you can't bring the neder or nadav on Yom Tov. What's my raya? I bring a raya from the two breads that you bring on Shavuos. It's meant to be brought on Shavuos itself, not beforehand. There's no concern of delaying. You're not meant to bring it before Yom Tov. There's no concern of delaying and lingering, right? And still, what do we know? And we learn in Gemara Menachos that you cannot bake that bread on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Why not? The reason must be because it's L'Hashem, it's L'Gavoya. It's considered a carbon. And since you can bring it, you can bake it yesterday, it doesn't allow for baking on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Likewise over here, by Neder Nadava, where you can bring it before Yom Tov, you can't bring it on Yom Tov itself. So it's not Torah. Not just a Midrabanan. Continues the Gemara. Iboilu. The Bnei Yeshiva asked the following question. L'divrei Omer, Nedarim u'Nadavis ain't krevim b'Yom Tov. According to the Shita, you can't bring this korbanos on Yom Tov. Ovar v'shachat mai. What happens if he did the shchita? He was over. Now he has dam awaiting zrika. Should he ignore the korban, let it become puzzle, or not? Rav Amar zoyrekas hadam almanas lahatabasa b'achila. You could do the zrika to enable the achilas basar. So although perhaps zrika is problematic, there's a shvus involved. It appears like he's processing, fixing, repairing, enhancing, which might lead to a malacha. So technically you shouldn't be doing this. But if you have basar awaiting achila, it's Yom Tov. It's Eichel Nefesh. We allow the zrika in this case. Although you shouldn't have brought the carbon to begin with. It was a neder, it was a nadava. But after the fact, go do the zrika. Rabba Barafuna Amar, even if you have no basar, you can do this zrika to enable haktorah of the chalavim the following night to finish the processing of the carbon. That also is reason enough to do zrika. My benayu, is there any difference between these shittas? Yeah, there is. Benayu difference is nitma basar, oisha avad. Let's say the basar, the carbon became tummy, it went missing. So there's no achila, but there is a murin. L'Rava lezer, according to Rava, you can't do zrika because it's not echel nefesh. L'Rabbi Barafuna zara, according to him, you could do zrika because it's going to enable completion and conclusion of the processing of the carbon. Haktorah say murin. Meisvei, we have a kasha on Rabbi Barafuna. Kiv seyat tzeres sheshachtan shlo yishmon. The two kvasim are brought as a shlam on Shavuos, which was shechted improperly. He had a machshava that he's doing something else. It was shlo yishmon, in which case the carbon is still kosher, it's still edible, but you have to bring another one to make up for this one. Or he did the shchita before the appointed time, after the appointed time. So it's not going to be which means they haven't fulfilled their obligation, have to bring another one instead, but the actual carbon itself is technically kosher, you can eat it. So what do you do with the dam now? Hadam yizaruk basi achal. We allow you to do this zrika and eat the basar, it's Yom Tov. Zeichel nefesh. It's Shabbos. But if it so happens to be Shabbos as well, Shabbos and Shavuos, you can't cook, you can't roast that basar, there's no eichel nefesh involved. Lo yizrik. So indeed, he shouldn't do the zrika. But if he did the zrika, again, he didn't follow instructions, he did the zrika. We say the zrika is accepted, it's valid, and will enable him to be makti the emurin on Matzah Shabbos. Im zarak the evet in, only if he actually did the zrika. But the evet, okay, but it's pretty clear you can't initiate. You can't do the zrika where he knows that the zrika will not enable basal achila. This works according to Rabbi, who says zrika is only allowed when you enable the basal achila, in which case you don't have it here. According to Rabbi, what's wrong? Why can't he do zrika to enable the aktoris emurin? Kasha. We leave it as an unresolved kasha. We buy him another teretz. Shani shvus Shabbos mishvus Yom Tov. The big difference. When Rabbi Rav Huna says you can do this zrika on Yom Tov, he said it. Shvus of Yom Tov, the Isra Rabban of Yom Tov is less severe than the shvus, the Isra Rabban of Shabbos. So over there we allow it for aktoris emurin, whereas over here we're speaking on Shabbos. Shani shvus to Shabbos. This is Rabban of the zrika on Shabbos is more severe, it ranks higher, and therefore, in this case, we don't allow him to do the zrika simply to enable conclusion of the karm. Okay, so in summary, what do we learn today? This fellow announced, I'm giving away 400 zuz to this and this person, and let him marry my daughter. Since he began with the gift and we concluded with the marriage stipulation, apparently it's not really related, it's not really connected, it's not dependent. Therefore, this fellow can receive the gift and decide regarding the marriage. We had two machlokes b'shama b'sila, one regarding smicha. So let's go down the list. When it comes to karbonis nedava, neder nedava, like oilo shlam, we have psukim. Beginning of Vayikra, smicha is applied. Regarding an oilas chayva, we learn from a pasuk, Vayakav as oila, v'aseh kamishpat, smicha is applied. Regarding smicha on a shlam of chayva, now we have a machlokes. According to Beishama, there is no smicha. According to Beisil, there is. According to the second version of the Gemara, all agree there is smicha. Machlokes is more of a general shaila, a fundamental question regarding timing of smicha. According to Beishami, you don't have to have smicha next to the shechita. Therefore, when it comes to Yom Tov, do it yesterday, and do the hakrava tomorrow. Don't lean on the korban unnecessarily. According to Beisil, take it with smicha shechita. It's part of the hakrava process. It leads into the shechita, and therefore it has to be done on Yom Tov itself. We had a master regarding Hillel Azaken, where due to his immense humility and anava, he was meshanim pnei hasholem to avoid confrontation. We had a Talmud of Hillel Azaken as well, who was confronted by a Talmud of Beis Shammai and was taunted and responded in measured tones. We had the second machlokes between Risham and Yisrael pertaining to Oilos Re'i on Yom Tov. According to Beis Shammai, you can't bring it. It doesn't provide personal benefit. It's just a korban. According to Beis Hillel, it identifies with Yom Tov and can be brought on Yom Tov itself. Regarding Nedarim and Nedavis, according to one shita you can't bring it. According to the other shita you can bring it. So for instance, a shlamim of Nedava, according to Beis Hillel, you can bring it on Yom Tov. Now according to the shita that you can't bring it, the Gemara tells us it's minat Torah. If he was Eiver v'Shoichet, what happens to the dam? Well, if it's going to enable basal achila, you can do it on Yom Tov. But if it's only going to enable the emur and lak Torah, better machlokes. Much hatzlacha to you and kol tov.